from like a Happy Meal, all it needs to work is for 5 hours, all right? Because they're going to put us Hogwarts style in the gym, and you may or may not be able to see the clock. So sometimes they put it on the scoreboard. You want to be able to time yourself for your essays. So when it comes to Islam, Islam will be the third and the last of the great monotheistic religions. If you remember back to our second unit, after the river valleys, we did the religions across the world. And once set, you can add on to a foundation, but it is very rarely, if ever, displaced. So we have Judaism as the bedrock monotheistic faith. On top of that will be a layer of Christianity. On top of that will be Islam. A lot of the prophets, a lot of the fundamental beliefs are the exact same. For Muslims, Jesus did exist, except he was not the Son of God. He was a prophet, another messenger sent by God. So the whole thing will take place down, I'll use the Asia map, that's easiest. Down in the city of Mecca, here in Saudi Arabia, where due to its geographic location, it's the crossroads of the world. People are coming and going back and forth at all times. And as a result, Arabs were always involved in trading from India, from the Silk Road, from Africa, and from Europe. Everything has got to come through the Middle East. So as a result, the Arabic traders, Bedouins, nomads at this time, have to know something about each and every one of those religions so they can woo people or converse people into their shop. Mecca, like you hear the term, what is one of the Meccas of college basketball? Kentucky is one. There's another one. UNC, thank you, a little closer to home. You want to come to UNC. You want to come to Kentucky. You want to go to UCLA. Those are, where is the Mecca for professional baseball? Yankee Stadium, possibly, Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, all right? Big time places. Well, that's because the city of Mecca, I guess I don't need to yell because I got the microphone. Feeling very powerful. The city of Mecca was that for trading. And so it is near the west coast of Saudi Arabia. And it is here where Muhammad is going to grow up. The Prophet Muhammad will be born about roughly 570 AD. And he was an orphan child who gets adopted and grows up in a lower middle class trading family. And his orphan status and his poor status influences him as he grows up. And eventually, Muhammad will get married to a lady named Khadijah, who was a very wealthy widower, very rich lady. And as he began to take over the business, he got troubled by the things he had to do to bring in customers. Like, why am I doing this? And so he will go and study with Jewish rabbi for a couple years. And okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's good. Didn't answer all of his questions. He then goes to study with Christian bishops. More of his questions are answered. Okay, that's good. But there was a part missing. Something he just couldn't wrap his head around. So he goes out in the desert to think. In the modern day, we would call that Muhammad was going to write a reflection. He was going to reflect. And while he is in the desert for 40 days, bam, he has an epiphany where he is visited by God's messenger, the archangel Gabriel. Gabriel says, Muhammad, this is your job. And Muhammad is awestruck because he hears Gabriel speaking the Arabic language. The traditional language spoken in the area, the aristocratic language was Latin from the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, Greek or Latin. But Gabriel speaks Arabic, Muhammad's native tongue, and that's big medicine for him. And what he is told is known as the Quran, God's holy word. It's now the name of the Islamic Bible. And Muhammad is told, you are the last messenger sent by God. Right? Hebrews are the chosen people. Jesus got the Gentiles. You, Muhammad, are going to get everybody else. Tell the Muslims to turn from their paganism and their immorality and these idolatry worship and all those temples and come to me. And so going back to Abraham, Muhammad is seen the last in this long line of prophets, including Moses, John the Baptist, Noah, Jesus, you name it. And God had said, all people of the earth will come to me. So your job, Muhammad, is to go out and get them. And the message of the Quran is relatively simple. It said, you are to just go and tell your people, this is what I need you to do. And Muhammad goes to Mecca and he starts preaching this, and everyone says, get out of here, freak. You're ruining our business. People, you are beginning to turn people away. So his followers are persecuted. And he sends them out of the city for their own protection. And finally, he is asked to travel from Mecca to a sister city of Medina to solve a land dispute. And what's that?
All of his followers go with him?
Yeah, most do. The other big thing is that in Medina, Muhammad's message is very well received. So his earliest converts come from the city of Medina, where Muhammad will stay for a period of about 10 years. Now, people in Mecca tried to assassinate Muhammad, if you can believe such a thing. You're very welcome. Tried to assassinate Muhammad. He finds out and he goes after them. And this begins a 10-year war between Muhammad and his Meccan convert and his Median converts and Mecca.
What was that called?
Muhammad's war with Mecca. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Was he, were they trying to assassinate him when he was in Medina?
Yes. Yes. Now, Muhammad survives, and his leaving for Mecca for Medina has a big impact. It is the start of the Islamic calendar. It is also the basis for one of the 5 pillars known as the Hajj, or the return to Mecca. Everyone must come back to Mecca. And when Muhammad returns victorious, he sets a precedent where he forgives the people of Mecca for what they had done. The message of the religion, like Christianity, like Judaism, is forgiveness. So parallels with the other two monotheistic faiths. Forgiveness. And here he creates something new in Arabic society known as the Ummah. The Ummah is the large collection of Muslims. Everybody who is a Muslim belongs to the Ummah. And Muslim pretty much means submitter. You are submitting to God's will. So when you are a follower of the Islamic religion, you are a Muslim. You are not an Islams. All right. Please do not ever write that, because it's just bad. So anyway, the Ummah is where Islamic culture, so Islam is more than just a religion, it's where Islamic culture is going to take shape. It's where society and its norms are created. And they will allow the religion to spread worldwide. Islam will spread farther and faster than any of the world's other religions. So, do we need to go over Muslim society, like the 7 things a person needs to do? All right. One of the reasons why Islam is attractive is the 5 pillars. In Judaism, there's the 10 Commandments and the rest of the Torah. In Christianity, there's the 10 Commandments and Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. But in Islam, you got to do 5 things. Do we need to go over the 5 pillars? I'm saying yes and no. All right. We'll go over them mega fast. Number 1, you must be submissive in your worship. You have to ask forgiveness. Man, Allah, I'm sorry. Number 2, you must pray 5 times a day. Number 3, you must give 10% of your income to widows and the poor. Number 4 is the practice of Ramadan, the abstaining from food or drink during daylight hours for 40 days. And last but not least is make the Hajj, or the trip to Africa, or from, I'm thinking Mansa Musa, the Hajj, the trip to Mecca once in your life if you are able. And as this is getting started, in 632, Muhammad ascends into heaven. And the next 100 years, from 632 to 732, will see Islam spread to some of the same territory as the great Alexander the Great's conquest, except it may spread even faster than his legendary conquests. And so by 643, 10 years later, Islamic armies will spread from the Middle East. It's going to go up. It's going to go into Egypt and North Africa. It'll go eastward into Iran, and it'll try to go north, but it runs into the Byzantine Empire. And it is at this time that Islam is brought into conflict with 2 other empires who had been fighting each other. The Byzantine Empire in Turkey and a tribe, which we don't really need to know, the Sassanids from North Africa. As a result of their constantly fighting each other, Islam is able to run them both over and expand. Islam moves along North Africa in the 700s, and by 711, they make it into Spain. 20 years later, they are halted at the Battle of Tours in France by Charles Martel. So in 100 years, we've gone from Mecca, across North Africa, up into France, up into Turkey, eastward as far as Afghanistan. That is an enormous amount of territory to cover. The reasons for success are important early in Islam. Number one, the ease of practicing Islam makes it attractive for converts. Number two, Islam had good leadership during this 100-year period. Number three, compared to a lot of other places, Islamic society was open and peaceful. Social mobility was a reality. You didn't have that anywhere else. And number four, the religious commitment of the caliphs was evident. They passionately believed in what they were doing. It is their goal to go out and get everyone else for God. Through you, the last group of people will be brought to me. And so when we look at the first four caliphs, and a caliph is simply a leader, a political leader, a temporary political leader. Am I going too fast? Am I going Ms. Rajan? No. All right. Should I speed up? All right. A little? A little fast? All right. All right. No, I thought that was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, is that good? Is that bad? Like this? I don't even know. It's all right. Told your brother you're going to test out a move on him today.
Yeah, I know my back hurts too much to keep my hands still. So I was doing that.
Really? He's that heavy?
Not from when you did it on me.
I hurt your back?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't sit in my chair for the next 3 periods.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No, it's not bad though. It's just like uncomfortable.
It's a good video. I have that on film.
Delete that before I get sued by the bird. I really hurt your back. I'm sorry.
Not really.
Just Jack's back a funny video for you.
I know where you live. I have someone who will let me in.
That's true.
Yeah, all right. So the first four caliphs are very important, and Ryan will let me in. You know that, so it's okay. All right. Yeah. First four caliphs bear an air of nostalgia. They are successful because they had daily contact with Muhammad. They all knew him. You can liken them, bless you, to Jesus' 12 apostles. All right. And so you have the first guy whose name is Abu Bakr. He'll reign for a brief 3-year period. And he faces the first test of Islam. When Muhammad dies, the word of allegiance given to Muhammad by the Arabic tribal leaders is normally in society broken at this point. You only give your word of allegiance while someone is alive. When they die, the contract is broken. But Abu Bakr says, no, when you give your word to Allah, He is everlasting, He is eternal, so you cannot ever get out of that relationship. Next is a guy named Umar who will begin the expansion from 634 to 644. Uthman does 644 to 655. And Ali from 655 to 661.
What would they use for Uthman again?
Uthman, 644 to 655. And again, these guys are important, and they were able to propel the expansion because they knew Muhammad. All right, they could say, yes, I ate with him, I drank with him, I talked with him. But by the time we get to the fifth caliph, we get a civil war. His name is Muawiyah. And he has a difficult time commanding the respect of the earlier guys because he's the first one who didn't really know Muhammad. And we're going to have two powerful clans, the Umayyad clan and the Abbasid clan, that are going to begin a civil war. Now these two families, these two dynasties, will battle it out, and the Abbasids will briefly be on top. They will win the war in the short term. And they will lay the foundation for the Islamic Empire that will quickly go from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indus River Valley into India by the late 700s. And the Abbasids will move their capital from Mecca to the city of Damascus in Syria. And they will remain in power to just before the start of the Crusades. In around 950, the Abbasid dynasty will collapse. And it's at this time, because of different beliefs and different ethnicities, Islam will no longer be united. The religion will be growing, but there will be three separate caliphs, three separate factions of Islam. Number one are the Seljuk Turks in Turkey.
What distinguishes them? Just that they are complete.
They're ethnic Turks. Over in Spain, there is Umayyads who will establish a caliphate in the city of Cordoba. So we got the Turks in Turkey, we got Umayyads in Spain, and we have Arabs in the Middle East, and we're going to bring in some Mongols. So it's a little bit of everything. And so at this time, Muslims realize that it's difficult to be a political and a religious leader at the same time. Islam is technically a theocracy, a government run by a religion. And it's difficult. Christians were somewhat unified. Now, they did split Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox. But the core belief is kind of the same. But you knew it was Rome or it was Constantinople. Muslims are all over the place. So how do we stay unified? The other problem is, as Islam conquered this enormous swath of territory, everybody was asked to convert. If you converted to Islam, you're Muslim. So we got Indians, we got Afghanis, Iranians, Arabs, Bedouins. By this time, by 800-900, Islam is a presence in the West African kingdom of Ghana. Europeans, Turks, all of those people are now theoretically equal. But if you're one political ruler, how do you govern all those different people and all that territory? You can't. It's just too difficult. Two groups of people will be protected. Number one are Christians, and secondly are Hebrews, monotheistic faiths. Muhammad went out and studied with them. All they have to do is pay a small head tax. But how are we going to keep this together? Well, this is where we get a new group of people known as the ulama. These are individuals recognized for their faith and their religious learning. They were religious scholars. And they wanted to preserve and keep the Quran the same as it was when Muhammad was in charge. How do we keep it original? How do we keep it so it doesn't deviate? To put it in Christian terms, how many times has Catholic canon law changed in 2014 years? Twice. All right. So, Mr. Berge, does it change very often? No, it does not. Once it's said it doesn't change. Was that a bomb? Right.
After like 6th period, that like whistle that got really loud and then got quieter and quieter and quieter, and it sounded like it was coming down on the school because I ducked and covered there for a second.
I did not hear that, or I would have been with
It
you.
sounded like a mortar was coming in. Yeah.
It's a car. It's the Prius. It's a Prius.
I thought they were silent killers.
It's really funny.
All right. It's pretty. God, what point was I making? I have so much running through my brain to tell you guys. I got to step back here. What was I saying? All right. We've got to create this doctrine that doesn't change. So we turn to the ulama. And these ulama are the ulama simply means a person of right knowledge, person who knows. And the first thing they do is they make Arabic the spoken and written language of the empire. This helps all Muslims, whether you're Indian, whether you're Arab, or you're Spanish, be able to communicate. That's freaking me out. All right. Yeah. Everybody, it's a unifying factor. Everybody, regardless of your ethnicity, can now communicate with each other. To this day, from Morocco to Indonesia, if you know Arabic, you can get around. If you want a very good job post-college, study Arabic. I will personally guarantee you a job. Well, depending on what you want to do, there's a myriad of options. But you can get a job, trust me. What's that? Well, you probably get a job before you graduate. It'll be waiting for you. So, and that's always an option, yes. It's always one. So, anyway, these ulama are going to communicate with all parts of the Islamic empire. And they're going to have discussions and conversations, and they are going to set what will in effect be Islamic canon law. It's everything from how criminals should be punished, good Lord, to the treatment of other people. It becomes even how to practice the religion. It is known as the Sharia. This is Islamic divine law. What's going on, ma'am? All right. Islamic divine law is the Sharia, and it governs every aspect of your life. your social life, your commercial life, your political life, and your economic life. So what that says in short is what you do in public, you also have to do behind closed doors. You cannot be a hypocrite. Good Lord, Blackwell. What's going on over there? Anyway, this governs every simple thing that you do. And it's here that we are going to get the split of the different types of Muslims. You're welcome. I hope you got something out of this, Dan.
Oh, my bad.
What is in that cute little bag?
It was my that bag. It's my yoga mat.
Oh.
Nice.
That is very nice. I'm not, didn't know it was like a quiver of arrows or what you had in there. I didn't really know. I'm kind of awestruck right now. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Is that really his yoga mat? It's like the nicest yoga mat I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I don't really know. I really thought it was a quiver of arrows. All right. I'm like, is he into archery? Like, what are we doing? All right. Yeah, but I was like, you know, is he Robin Hood in a play? And then, I mean, it was like a Persian yoga mat. Wow. Kind of awestruck right now. Okay. 3 sects of Islam. Gabby, these are for you. First sect, number 1, are Shiite Muslims or Shia Muslims. Shias or Shiites believe that the leader of Islam must be a blood descendant of Muhammad. They are the minority of Muslims in the world today. Michaela is not a Shiite Muslim, but she might be. The leader must be a blood descendant of Muhammad. Muhammad had a daughter named Fatima. Fatima then has a son. So, Shiites can trace the leader of their religion, their Khalif, all the way back to Muhammad. Today, Shiites are found mainly in Iran and a little bit in Iraq. They have been enjoying the freedom to worship in the last 10 years since Persian Gulf Round 2. Heavily persecuted. For whatever reason, Shiites and Sunnis hate each other. A very interesting comparison will be Catholics and Protestants in the High Middle Ages. We saw what it did during the age of absolutism. I'll kill you if you're a Protestant. Oh, you scumbag Roman Catholic. All right, it's the same thing. Hello, do we need Dumbledore to tell everybody this? The second sect of Islam is a Sunni Muslim. And a Sunni means the leader of your faith, your part of Islam, your caliphate, must be the best Muslim possible. So it's like electing the Pope, the Archbishop of Canterbury, or the Dalai Lama. You are known, you are elected. It's not an easy thing to do. That is the majority of Muslims in the world today. You encounter a Muslim, if you ask them where they're from, if they don't say Iran, or they may call it Persia, because they don't like to be called Iranians, 99% of the time, if you guess Sunni, you'll be accurate. Now there is a third group of Muslims known as Sufi Muslims. I liken Sufis to, anybody remembers? They're kind of the easygoing, laid-back Muslims. They're kind of like the hippie Carborough Muslims. Hey man, that's okay. And Sufis will be big-time missionaries. They will spread out, particularly going eastward into what is today Afghanistan, Pakistan, and northern India. And the Sufis are able to adapt. They're not as strict as Shiites or Sunnis. And if you have a local festival or a religious shrine, hey man, that's cool. That goes along with what Muhammad said. it's cool, we'll bring that in. And so they are more peaceful and they gain a lot of followers that way. Sufi Muslims, very adaptable. Someone asked, it might have been Dan who just left. You can compare Sufi Muslims to Buddhists who can also morph and adapt their religion and attach it to other things. It's peaceful, it's easier, it's nonviolent. I'm not lying. All right, all right. Yes, ma'am.
Wait, so who do they believe their leader is?
Sufis, they don't really have a set leader. Yeah. So, as we get near the end of the formative period, there is some cultural achievements that early Muslims make up to this point, up to like 900. Number one, the Muslims were very good at manufacturing iron and steel. Roberto. Number two, they were able to put acid etching, like a creative artwork, onto many of their designs. The Muslims were very adept when it comes to medicine, advanced surgery, and medicinal remedies for injuries and sicknesses. Because they lived primarily in a desert, the Muslims were very good at not drinking water. They were tough, but when it came to getting water, they were good at finding it, irrigation. All right. So you live in the desert. Yeah. That's who invented the camelback? Muslims. I don't know if that's true, but like the backpack water thingies. Those work.
Yeah, they work.
Clearly. All right. All right. When it comes to art, Muslims were not allowed to portray humans. It was seen as a form of idol worship. So the Muslims create mosaics and they decorate their religious and governmental buildings with these elaborate geometric shapes. And they make very brilliant stained glass. Yes, sir.
So they can't do any humans, not just God?
Yeah, no one. It's kind of rough. What if you take a picture? I don't know. I've asked that, and I get dirty looks. I know. Thank you. I'm like, what? InstaChat, Snapchat. What's that thing called?
You're close. I've launched 2 picture apps.
Okay.
So you got it.
I got it. I just combined them. All right. Is Instagram a thing?
Yes.
Instagram is that like a message thing?
Snapchat is the message thing. Instagram's like a Facebook kind of thing.
But
But just pictures.
Share pictures with people.
Okay. Which one has text?
Snapchat.
Snapchat. Because I figured the name chat was in it. Just checking. I'll figure it out. One of these days I'll allow my kids to get phones and I'll figure it out. So anyway. Arabic writing is very stylized, very flowing, like Chinese calligraphy. And Muslims take ideas of the Roman arch and they modify it. They make it more rectangular and they build domes and towers to decorate their mosques or their churches. During this time, from 600 to, let's say, 1000, the Muslims will preoccupy the Byzantine Empire and thereby do a service to Western Europe, who was a mess at this time. The Arab scholars and doctors also will preserve Greco-Roman learning, ideas of the classical ages, Greece and Rome, that would possibly have disappeared without the Islamic scholars preserving all of that learning. Stuff from like Alexander's House of Muses. All right. Are we good right now? Next group is Islam from say 1000 up to like 1800. This is when it gets complicated and there are Muslims all over. You guys have any questions at this point? No. All right. So, first thing we want to talk about is orthopraxy and orthodoxy. Anybody know what the difference is? Yes, sir.
How you practice versus what you practice?
Okay, which is which?
I think praxis is how you practice.
Yeah. P for practice. Orthopraxy is how you practice it. Orthodoxy is how you believe it. All right. Christians kind of define themselves by their orthodoxy. Everybody believes pretty much the same thing. They just practice it differently. Catholic, Methodist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, Baptist. Muslims, on the other hand, all right, practice no matter who your political leader is, they practice their religion the same way. Whether you're Shiite, whether you're Sunni, it's the same thing. They all agreed when it comes to practice. Their only difference, their big difference, if you're asked to compare Islam to another religion, is no matter what sect you're from, the practice of the religion is the exact same. Everybody got that? All right, I'm just making sure. All right. Between 900 and 1000, the ulama get elevated in social class. While all Muslims were seen as equal, the ulama's learning and their quest to keep Muslims together elevates their status. Their rulings carry more weight. People listen to them. So it is at this time that we are going to form the Islamic madrasa. A madrasa is a college of higher learning where you will be taught by an ulama, should you wish to go there. And the ulama judged each student individually on how fast or how slow they learned. Is a Islamic college where you learn to read and to write and then to specialize. Law, medicine, religion. And when you graduate, you are able to become a teacher in a madrasa of your choosing, should you choose. And these madrasas are one more unifying element of Islam. So Islamic continuities. Number one is expansion. Number two is unification. They speak, they read the same. And now we've got this education, this higher learning. Muslims, another continuity is they're always involved in trading. All right? They are movers and shakers of civilization. Cultural diffusion is everywhere. And a lot of wealthy Muslims are in charge of this. One guy is Harun al-Rashid. And Harun is known as the Medici family of Islam. He was a great patron of the arts and culture. Let's make stuff that is uniquely Islamic. Let's decorate mosques and temples and make minarets, put our own spin on it. And shortly after Harun al-Rashid gets going, there is a massive battle in the Middle East between a Shiite family led by the great Islamic warrior Saladin, or in America we like to call him Saladin. All right. Saladin will destroy a Shiite stronghold in Egypt, the Fatimid dynasty, founded by Muhammad's daughter. So Shiitism is almost erased at this point. But all of a sudden, coming out of Turkey are members of the First Crusade. And as the Crusaders come down, they will be able to liberate Jerusalem in 1099. It is the first and the only crusade that works. I got a little bit ahead of myself. The crusade happens. As soon as the Crusaders leave, Islam makes a comeback. It is at this time that Saladin unifies the Arabic tribes and destroys the Fatimid dynasty after the First Crusade. And Saladin will become famous for fighting in the Third Crusade against King Richard the Lionheart of England. However, Saladin, as he's able to briefly unite the Muslim tribes, as soon as the Third Crusade is over, Muslims break apart. And it is at this time that we're going to get very separate, very distinct Islamic empires. They're still Muslim, they still practice the religion, but it's going to be vastly different. Number one, we have a caliphate over in Spain, where we are going to create something known as Moorish culture. A blending of Spanish and Islamic culture will be seen in Spain. This will be displayed in the great, well, you guys copied the terms down, right? In the great Alhambra Mosque and the University at Cordoba, where Muslim and Christian students together join forces. And it is built by a grandfather and his grandson, Abd al-Rahman I and III, a brief period of unity in Spain. And under their leadership, advancements in science and medicine are created. However, just because they went to school together, Christians and Muslims interacted well in class, but as soon as class was over, they went their separate ways. The Rahmans wanted to build Christian and Islamic unity, and it just didn't happen. And part of the problem that the Muslims are facing at this point is what to do with everyone who has converted. Muslims did not have to pay taxes. But now that frickin' everybody in part of the world is a Muslim, we're getting no taxes. You can only conquer so much. So they came up with a thing, it's called a diwan. It was kind of a registry, D-I-W-A-N. And the diwan or diwan was you were ranked in order of your tribe or your area's conversion to Islam. The earlier you converted, the less you had to pay. It was kind of a good old boys network. It was making sure the top dog Arabic families kind of stayed on top. After, however, the death of Abd al-Rahman III, the Reconquista of Spain took place, which ended with the famous Spanish Reconquista leader, El Cid, all right, or the Cid. All right, El Cid. I need to get an El Cid ceiling tile. It is a long movie, but it's not bad. That's a Charlton Heston one, isn't it? Or not, if not Charlton Heston, Michael Douglas, Kirk Douglas, yeah. All right. From 11 to 1200, the High Middle Ages and the Renaissance. This is the period where Genghis Khan and his grandsons will conquer from the Pacific Ocean all the way over to Europe. They will form a parallel trade route. And they will unknowingly bring about the plague, the Black Plague, to Europe, the Mongols. And the Khan leaders, especially Kublai Khan, who will set up a dynasty in China, will welcome many scholars to his court. One of them was the famous medieval scholar Ibn Battuta, who will live from 1304 to 1368, including supposedly Marco Polo. We know Ibn Battuta made it. We don't know if Marco Polo did. But it's at this point, traveling over the Mongol Empire, he chronicled how safe it was. Like the fair maiden could put a pot of gold on her head and walk from Europe to the Pacific and not have a hair on her head be touched. And Ibn Battuta travels all over, from China to India to the Middle East, and he coins the term Dar al-Islam, which means the abode of Islam. Islam is, in the words of Johnny Cash, it's everywhere, man. You guys don't really know some Johnny Cash, do you? It's on that commercial. I've been everywhere, man. Okay, never mind. Let's be quiet. However, Mongols and Muslims encounter. Some, bless you, of the Mongols convert to Islam. The most famous of which are a group of Mongols who take over Moscow. They are known as the Golden Horde. You all right, Roberto? Tuberculosis? All right. All right. They are known because of the color of their tents. Their color of their tents were spun with gold, so they were the Golden Horde. And they will take over Russia, and they will have a parallel Silk Road trade route. So the Silk Road has another branch up into Moscow. What is the continuity from China? Silk Road. All right. But the army of the Khans will split into fourths. And another sect, led by Mongol warrior Hulagu will capture the city of Damascus and kill all the Muslims in it, even though he claimed to be religiously tolerant. And Christians were excited. Whoop, 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 whoop. It's almost looking as if Islam will be extinguished in the 1300s. And then Hulagu will fight with a cousin of his, a guy named Burke, who is a Mongol who converted to Islam. The two will do battle, and it will signify one thing, and that is the unity of Genghis Khan's army is forever broken. Mongol unity is damaged. Islam will survive. And it starts off a new round of conquest where an Islamic warrior named Tamerlane will go from Afghanistan to Pakistan to what is across northern India to Southeast Asia. He is a dedicated Islamic warrior, so he claims. However brutal the Mongol conquests were, however effective the Islamic conquests were, they were careful not to damage too much infrastructure, because what you break, you have to rebuild. Well, Tamerlane left nothing in his wake but pestilence, death, and destruction. He was a destroyer. He simply just did not care. So, it is at this time, end of the 1200s, into the 1300s, where we will get the creation of what is known as the three gunpowder empires. Tamerlane eventually stalls out. And there will be three more Muslim caliphates known as the gunpowder empires because of their ability to handle weapons and gunpowder. Number one is the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. Number two is the Safavid dynasty in Iran. And, going diagonally, ting, 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 tic-tac-toe, the great Mughal dynasty in India. Yes, sir. The Safavid. Now, the Mughals and the Ottomans took turn beating the living snot out of the Safavids. Why? They were Shiites. So let's just kick the crap out of them. All right? If I was not mic'd up, I would give you an off-color misnomer. All right. All right. Yeah, hit pause.